welcome today to Sue Falkner from Expressive Consultancy as part of our Business Spotlight interview series. So welcome, Sue.
Thank you very much, Phil, and for having me. It's much appreciated.
Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do and for how long you've been doing it for?
For sure, Phil. Thank you. So I run Expressive Consultancy. So I help businesses and organisations build their brands through outsourcing. So that's really what we offer is project management, research, business automation, but also a focus too on generating audience targeted materials. So that can include media releases, web content, social media, etc.
Right.
So that's largely what we do. And I've been running this business now since 2020. So
Okay.
I was actually born out of the pandemic. I held a project manager role at a local university. And as you can appreciate, during that time, especially in the early stages, universities were trying to find their feet and where they were at. So they made a number of redundancies, and I was one of those. And it worked out great for me. I've got a lot of experience in the higher education sector.
Yes.
So I've worked in a number of roles from, say, communication manager, relationship manager, web content manager, media officer even. So it was time to really hone in on my skills and look to do something for me. So starting up my own business was a very exciting opportunity despite what was going on with the pandemic. And I think that's largely been a lot of what has happened actually throughout COVID, is that for some people, COVID's been just awful, which is so sad. But for other people, they've seen opportunities. And I think that was the thing for me. And also it was an opportunity for me as a parent too, because I'm a parent of a child with a very complex disability. And it was at that time too that I needed to spend a little bit more time with the family. Yes. And it's meant that I have that flexibility to work when I want to work and can fit around some of those appointments and things that are happening. So it's also been great for me to ensure that my kids are living fulfilling lives too. So
yes, yeah. Well, congratulations. And so I'm curious here, Sue, in when you know we entered into COVID, everybody was totally unsure of what was going to happen. You were then plonked with a redundancy. How quickly did from when you knew that you were going to be made redundant to then actually starting the business? Is this something that you'd already had in the back of your mind, or just walk us through the process that you went through?
It was a process because we did find out that there was going to be a bit of notice between actually finishing up at the university and, you had that little bit of time to kind of get your head around that. So for me, it was then, well, what am I going to do? And then it was like, oh, there's various options. And then, I don't know, something just came to me and in reading some articles in newspapers as well about what other people were doing during that period, started to get me thinking that, starting my own business is the way to go. And I was actually really fortunate to be able to find an organisation called the VA Institute, who actually enable you to set yourself up quite quickly. So I was able to get everything I needed, my website going and all of that thing. So I launched within 3 months of knowing that was going to happen. And I was really pleased to be able to do that because, I think sometimes you can procrastinate and sort of sit there and think about things a little bit too much. And I was like, you need a website. And I do web content for a living. But when it's your own, sometimes you're like, do I need this? No, you don't need a massive site. You just need a few pages. You just need to launch. You need to get going. And you just need to start driving some business and traffic through. So that was my approach.
Yeah. And so, the idea, was it, of owning your own business, was that born from somewhere prior to even realising that the redundancy might happen?
So, sorry, do you mean was the idea there already before the redundancy?
That you'd love to work for yourself?
I've always, my parents ran their own business, so that entrepreneurial mindset and growth mindset's always been there for me. And whilst I enjoyed all of those roles being an employee, I've always known that I wanted to do something for myself, but I didn't know exactly what. And it wasn't until that time that I started to think, oh yeah, actually, my skill base can be my business. It doesn't have to be, I don't have to go and buy a business as such, or start something from, well, it's from scratch, but it's not from scratch because you've got those skill sets and ideas and intellectual property that really do are the foundation of my business for sure. That 20 years experience that I have is definitely formulating the business, absolutely.
Yeah. And what was the biggest learning you had in actually starting to establish the business?
I think probably in terms of establishment of the business, the learning for me has been communication, and communication with my husband, actually, because my husband, even prior to COVID, he's been working from home for many years. He's employed, but we really work as a team. And it's so essential to do that, because if we don't have that close communication, and if there's a time when that may break down, that can be detrimental to not only my business and ensuring that I meet my deadlines and get to everything that I need to achieve in a day, but also very much to our children, because we need to make sure that they're catered for and that their time slots will work. So that whole, just to make sure you're on the same page is so vital and so important to success.
Yeah, absolutely. And so coming back to when you first started the business, how did you actually go out and find your clients?
Through a number of means. So some are through connections that I have made during my time in the higher education sector. Others have been through the Chamber of Commerce, and others have been through the Virtual Assistant Institute, because they have a job lead section as well. So it's been a multifaceted approach, really, which I think is great, because that's the world of opportunity that there is when you run your own business. And there are so many avenues for finding clients, which is what really excites me, and that's where my passion lies as well.
I'm just in awe of what you have been able to achieve, particularly starting a business in one of the most difficult economic times that I think Australia has ever been through. So in terms of the geographic area that you cover, how far and wide do you spread yourself?
Very, very far and wide, really, because obviously, like I work from home, so I work remotely, but it's something, working remotely is something I've done and have been used to even since 2006. Back then, I was working in a consultancy role for a university from the UK, but a university here in Australia.
Oh, wow.
So I've been very familiar to that whole, for some people, it's COVID that's brought that about, but that's certainly not been the situation for myself. And for example, a main client of mine, Edified, they're an education consultancy who work with global education providers to build their brand, and they focus on acquiring and retaining students. And I get very excited by the work that I do for them, because it's spread far and wide, and a lot of it's based in Melbourne, but a lot of it's also in Sydney, and it can be globally as well. So that's so certainly do spread my wings quite a long way. And being English too, I'm very familiar as well. I think that's another thing, that I've got a lot of friends and family in England, so I'm used to that whole
so I guess really the
time zones.
The sky's the limit for you then.
Hopefully, yeah. Yeah, that's the aim.
All right. So who, when you think about your clients, who would make an ideal client for you?
Well, that's the thing. I tend to find that I'm actually quite diverse in the client base that I have, because there's a client that I mentioned, Edify, and obviously that's my link through higher education. But also the personal experience of dealing with my son and his complex issues opens me to the NDIS. And that's really another area that I'm very passionate about, is working with allied health professionals and consultants, and also small businesses too, because I feel I have, especially from my background, I have a close connection to small businesses and running a small business, and I get very excited when I can help a small business grow and build their brand. And that's kind of really a massive part of where my passion lies as well.
Fantastic. That is very, very, very impressive. And
thanks, Phil.
In terms then, let's just have one more last question. When you look at the future, what does the future look like for your business and for you personally?
Yeah, I think the future for me, again, I'm really excited, because for the first time, like last year, I had to really put my family first. So we had a few challenges. We needed to relocate property because my son's in a motorised wheelchair. And he also had a major operation not long afterwards. So that was a challenging time last year for us. And I think as a business owner, it's really important that you take a stock of where you're at. I had some really supportive client base at the time, which was wonderful, but I couldn't grow. I didn't have the headspace to attend any networking opportunities, or I had to really close all that down. And this year, I'm now able to open all that up again, and it just feels so refreshing. I'm like, wow, I'm here again, I'm back. And I can really, and being third year in business as well, I really felt that the first year was my foundation year for sort of really starting to, to be a business owner. I really wanted to take a stock of that. It's the first time I'd come into it. I really wanted to sort of make sure that I was doing things properly and correctly. And then, as I say, that second year was really a floating year. Third year is really pushing out there and really growing. And hopefully, building a solid team around me as well is my goal. So, and I'm aware of the challenges though. I think that this year does hold, obviously we've got interest rate hikes happening, we've got, cost of living going up, but I also see though that that's an opportunity really for businesses to sort of take a fresh perspective at where they're heading, and hopefully plan strategically and look to work with a business like mine, whereby they can sort of say, okay, well, I've got this amount of money to spend. What can you do to help me, and where can I get, the best effort out of this? And hopefully, that's where I feel I can add value to businesses in these times. So
that's absolutely fantastic, and I for one am really going to look forward to following your journey as the business grows. And for anybody that is watching this video, please check out Sue's website, Expressive Consultancy, and look for all the different skills where she may be able to actually help you. So thank you so much, Sue.
Fantastic. Thank you, Phil.
I really appreciate your time today.
It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Phil. Thank you.